What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to the show. Hopefully you have subscribed on iTunes or Google Play, or you've gone to my website, which not a lot of people go to, but it's my fault because I don't update it or promote enough, which is gugpodcast.com. So if you want to go there and see a page or two, sure, why not? I don't update it that often, which is my fault, which I'll get better at that. But or maybe you're just going straight to Libsyn and listening to there. So wherever you guys listen to the show, thank you guys very much. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Alejandro Buendia. I met this man through Twitter, thanks to the help of my buddy, Sean Capri. That's Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. I sent him a message saying, hey, it'd be cool because I need some more guests. And he's like, boom. And he sent out the bat signal. And he's like, hey, guys, who wants to be on this guy's show? And this gentleman responded back to me and said he'd want to be on, and he was great. So if you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get things started with Alejandro Buendia. Do you remember what initially got you started playing games? Was it a friend, a family member? Do you remember what initially got you interested in the first place?
Yeah, so what got me was basically because when I was a little kid, I was really rambunctious. So my parents, they needed to get me something to calm me down, to have me sit still. So at first it was a TV, and then it evolved to video games. My parents got me and my sister a Super Nintendo. And it came with Super Mario World, and I think at the time that was the only game. And so I played the hell out of that game for for a while, for a long time.
So were you and your sister ever cool playing games together, or was she not as interested as you were in it? I
think we would play Super Mario World together. The whole I would be Mario and she'd be Luigi kind of thing, and switch off. And we got more games, and I think it was it just kind of grew up into how you grow up and you get this whole stereotype that boys are more into video games and girls are more into whatever. Right. So the system ended up into my room when we both ended up with getting our own rooms when my parents moved into a house. So then eventually we stopped playing games, I think, because of that.
Got it. Were your parents?
So at first we did, but then it kind of separated.
Right. Were your parents encouraged of you playing games, or were they kind of all because, I know there's some parents out there who are cool about games because they were gamers themselves, but then you had those parents that were just I want you going outside, or I want you doing something else. Were they pretty cool about playing games? Obviously they got you the console, but, were they cool about you playing games, or were they pretty strict on it?
I think once I got the 64, maybe? I think it was once I got the 64, they became more strict because that's when... Because I was born in 90, so when I got to 64, I was getting older and spending more times playing video games, and I would literally get hand cramps, and yeah, and my parents would be like, and my mom especially would be like, go outside, stop playing that. Your hands are gonna, stay in that shape, because especially with the 64 controller was weirdly shaped, so so my mom would tell me you get out of the house. And I didn't really like sports growing up, or I wasn't really athletic or anything like that growing up. So I didn't really play any. So I was mostly in the house just playing video games, and my friends would come over. We'd play video games, and and growing up, I think my friend had a Sega. My other friend had he got a PlayStation eventually. So we would kind of go to each other's houses and play each other's systems, especially when each of us got a new game. So my parents were kind of strict. Sometimes they would tell me you should go play outside, but they wouldn't really force me. They wouldn't push me out the door, but they would try to encourage me, but I would never really do it.
Right. And that was because it just depends, right? Because, I have kids, and I have my son would rather do nothing else than play on his Xbox, right? But that's the thing. Yeah. It sucks now because when I was a kid, I'm not gonna say I was athletic, but also I was cool about going outside and just doing shit like riding bikes or playing in my friend's backyard or playing on trampolines, like that kind of shit. So, but then now obviously technology has just gotten to a point where my kid doesn't need to leave his house to talk to his friends. He doesn't need to he can fucking video chat with people from his bed if he wants to. And I'm just like, I want you to get out of the house and do something. The only thing that's cool now, and by the way, if this was the case when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't have played games as much. Nerf guns. Nerf guns are really fucking awesome now. And that's the only thing that seems to get my kid out of the house. Cause you can't shoot your friends with Nerf guns in your bedroom. You kind of have to go outside and do that shit. So that's the only thing that's kind of getting my son out of the house more often, which is good. But I mean, some parents are out there and they don't understand games. They don't want their kids playing them, or they got it just to kind of shut their kids up. But, I mean, as long as, the whole hand cramp thing as a parent now, I'm like, I'd probably be like, hey dude, why don't you do some other shit?
Slow down.
Dude,
I would play for hours and my hands would start hurting like crazy.
Yeah, that 64 controller was, it was funny when that thing first came out, because originally I'm like, how the fuck do you even hold this thing? What? There's 3 handles. What do you do?
I thought the same thing.
It.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing when I got it.
So then with Super Nintendo and stuff, so also too, you were saying, you had friends, so did your friends also have the same consoles? Or like you said, one of your friends had a Genesis and stuff. Were you the kid that, were you the only kid that had a Super Nintendo, or was it a good mix of you got to at least experience stuff from both consoles?
No, I really just experienced stuff on Nintendo. That's probably why I mean, I have an Xbox and a PlayStation now, but back in the day, I didn't have a Genesis. I just had one console. We were the kind of my parents. Growing up, we weren't my parents didn't really have that much money, so it was just you get this one console, you get this one game, and maybe you get another game later on your birthday. And that was it.
The birthday Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So the only games I would experience with on the other consoles were Sonic every now and then. I think it was Sonic 1, and and then when the PlayStation came out, I actually don't really remember what I experienced on the PlayStation. No, I don't. Maybe Spyro, maybe.
Right.
So I really only experienced Nintendo pretty much up until actually just a couple of years ago when I actually got the Xbox and the PlayStation, because before that I would kind of go to friends' houses and they would have a 360 or a PS3 or something, and I would play on there sometimes, but I was never really that interested into those consoles, because I mean I was a Nintendo kid, so I wanted to play Mario, I wanted to play all these other games, and nothing on the Xbox or the PlayStation really interested in me, because they were just more shooters. I really just saw shooters and just stuff that didn't really catch my attention. I guess it's just because they didn't have that Nintendo feel or flavor, or that aesthetic.
Right.
So nothing really ever caught my eye. I need to play this game, or I really want to play this game. I got to find somebody that has it. I got to find a friend to go to his house. So I never really experienced. I was just a Nintendo kid up until 2 years ago, basically, or maybe 3.
Which is crazy. I mean, that's cool. I mean, because the thing is, during the Super, well, I mean, obviously the heyday was, in my opinion, was Super Nintendo and in a way GameCube, when it came to a lot of third party support. You know what I mean? Super Nintendo was the fucking, I mean, there were so many games on Super Nintendo, so many. And I mean, obviously you had support from Square, and you had all these games still coming to Super Nintendo. Genesis was just, it had its own games, and some versions of games could people consider better on Genesis or whatever, but that's all debatable, just depending on your personal preference.
Yeah.
But Super Nintendo, that was the heyday where it had all this third party support. It was just especially if you liked RPGs, that was your fucking dream console, and it still kind of is. So many people love all the RPGs that were on Super Nintendo still. Obviously, Super Nintendo Classic sold the fuck out just as fast as the NES Classic did. But yeah, I mean, that's the one console, and it sucks because when I was a kid, majority of my friends had Genesis. So I missed out on a lot. Not saying it sucked. I wasn't all I wasn't one of those those kids at the schoolyard, like, fuck Nintendo, that shit's for babies. I wasn't like that. But I just never got a chance to experience a lot of that stuff. So in a way, I'm like, man, that sucks. But then, the only thing that sucks is I look back at the games that I played on Genesis, and no one gives a fuck about those games, dude. No one cares. No one thinks, what's one of the best games from the 16-bit generation? And then they go, you know what it is? It's Vector Man. No one fucking says that. At all. Even though Vector Man's cool. Shout out to Vector Man. I played it. It was cool, but it's not in anybody's top 10 list of games from the 90s or any shit like that. Whereas like Super Nintendo, you ask like top 10 games from the 90s and like maybe half or more are on Super Nintendo. So it kind of sucks. You're like, okay. I mean, Super Nintendo had that library and everything. So, I mean, like I said, good for you that you chose a good console. I'm not regretting Genesis, but it just doesn't have that kind of memory that Super Nintendo people have. Yeah, and
like kind of like you, I missed out on a lot on the Super Nintendo because obviously my parents couldn't buy me everything, and then on top of which I was growing up I was I still am. I'm an introvert, so I never really like socialized a lot. So I never got to talk with kids about games. Like they would tell me about like I'm playing Final Fantasy or I'm playing whatever like Star Fox or whatever. So I really like. I play like NBA Jam, Clay Fighters, Super Mario World, Super Mario All Stars, and like maybe like Maximum Carnage. So I play like really like this eclectic kind of games, and so and I really like and so I never really experienced like RPGs or any of the stuff until like 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 I said like a few years ago I was like really bare bones coming up. In terms of just playing the different genres of games.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like the same thing with me, whereas, like, I was more, whatever was mainstream at the time, I was more into that, which sucks because, like, there were some gems, obviously, that I missed out on, but, like, I was kind of in the same way, though, where I had, it was the NBA Jam, it was Mortal Kombat, it was, like, those just mainstream games that me and my buddies played, so, like, all of the games, like I never really went to game shops, so like I didn't have that experience of like checking out different genres of games. I was just like kind of what's popular, and I was in the same boat as you. Like my parents didn't have a lot of money, so it was always the birthday Christmas loop, like game for birthday, game for Christmas, like that was kind of the thing. But yeah, I was kind of in the same boat where like people talk about some cool Genesis games that I just never played because I didn't know about them. Like just the exposure to those games wasn't there for me. I was just like, what's everybody else playing? Oh, Mortal Kombat? Cool, I'll get that. Oh, what's everybody else playing? NBA Jam? Let's get that. Like, that was the only thing that kind of sucked is that now, at least, the exposure to games is, I mean, thank you, Internet. The exposure to games is so big that you can find so many games now, and the store is just right there in front of you with every game in the world for you to buy. Like, it sucks because, like, back then, unless you had gaming magazines or friends that were like at least more knowledgeable with games, but also too, I mean, games were still like they weren't as big as they are now. What I mean? They were big, but not everyone had that person. It's like you didn't have that go-to person that always played RPGs, or at least I didn't. Like most of my friends were just kind of like, "What's all popular? Let's just all play the same shit."
Yeah, I feel like when you're like back then, you had to be like a hardcore gamer to, like know about everything. Whereas now you can be like a really casual gamer and get like a lot of information without really even trying. And, like back then, like you said, you had to go like above and beyond, get magazines. You had to go to like specific gaming stores, right? Like I mean, the only times I would ever see games really was when I was, especially with the Super Nintendo, was when I went to the video store with my parents to rent movies and stuff. I would go to the game section, and it was always the same games, but I would always go to and just look at them. And that's really the only time I got exposed to other Super Nintendo games. And besides going to like flea markets and stuff, those are the only two experiences. And usually you always see like the same games over and over. So yeah, like you really had to be like a hardcore gamer even back then to really get exposed to everything.
Yeah, and the other thing too is also what sucks too is box art's always bullshit. Because you'd look at some box art and you'd be like, you'd look at box art and go, man, that looks cool. Then you get that home and you're like, what in the fuck is this? This is nothing like this.
God.
Which it was more rampant on like the original Nintendo, like, you know, and the NES, it was horrendous because, of course, you look at it and you go, wow, this is amazing. And then whatever the fuck happens, you know what I mean? Like, you get home, you play it, you're just like, I don't know what this is about. But also, too, that same thing happened with, like, licensed movie games. Just some of those movies, you'd be like, man, this movie's about this. And then you go play the game and you're like, the fuck is this even
horrible.
about? It's just terrible. So bad. Like, they had zero effort put into it. Like, it just, it sucked, but whatever. I mean, you know, like, that's the shit you learn. But now, I mean, again, like, the exposure of games, like, that was our exposure to games back then was, you know, at least mine was, like you said, the movie rental place. Like, you go to the movie rentals and you go to games and, like, looking at box art, just seeing if the game's cool, and realizing you get home and you rented a piece of shit for a weekend and then you're stuck with it because you can't tell mom and dad, hey, Mom, let's go back. They'd be like, nah, we're good. We got our shit. Yeah. I'm sorry you picked out some garbage, but you get to play it for 3 days. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, you know, what we had to go off of and everything. So, so then obviously after Super Nintendo, you rode the Nintendo train and just went straight to N64.
Yep.
What do you remember? Do you remember your first game that you had on 64?
Oh yeah, I hated it. God damn, I hated that game. It came with the Star Wars racing game.
Oh, the pod racing game.
The pod racing game. I hated that game. It's so terrible. I don't know why people like it. I hated it. Like, oh my God, I played it like So when I first got it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I started realizing, like, oh my God, there's like you can only pick like Anakin and like Saboba and like there's only like two tracks or three, and I was like, this is hard, this is terrible. And so I hated that game, but I played it. Oh my God, I hated that game so much. And then I was actually talking to my friend a couple weeks ago, and he was like, dude, why didn't you get all the cheats for it? There was a ton of cheats for that game. And I was like, God damn it.
You know what's funny is you thought you liked the game at first, and then you didn't like it, which is the same thing people thought about Episode 1, the movie, too. That's crazy. Like, everybody thought they liked it, and then they saw it again, and they were like, the fuck was that? What did we just do? Dude, you know what it is? I think with that game, so to be honest, I think I only played it at kiosks. Like, I don't remember, you know, when you go to, like, Walmart or, you know, Toys R Us or whatever, and they have those kiosks there, and that was, like, obviously a big deal because of Episode 1, and I'm pretty sure, did it come packaged with N64s at one point in time?
Yeah.
I think it did, yeah. So I remember just playing it at kiosks, and I don't remember the game that much. I just remember playing it, and I'm just like, I guess this is cool. But again, I was a really big Star Wars nerd, too, so of course, like, everything at that time, Episode 1, was just, like, hyped as fuck. Like, everyone and their mother was all like, Episode 1, they're going to start telling Anakin's story. This is the best shit ever. And then, like, it was that, but again, it's always the same with Star Wars shit. Like, when Force Awakens came out, everything was Force Awakens. Like, everything. Fucking toothbrushes and everything. Like, so, I mean, you just get hyped as shit. And that happens, unfortunately, with, like, the Star Wars game where Episode 1, like, some people, I think, only think it's good because they remember the time when they were so hyped for it. I think that's the only thing. Then again, you go back and play some games you were hyped for when you were a kid, and you play them, and they fucking suck. They're just not good. But again, your head wants to play tricks on you, saying, nah, man, that was good. It was only good because you got it for Christmas morning, and you wanted it more than anything that Christmas. That's why it's good. Go back and play that shit.
It's not good.
Thing. Right.
Yeah.
So at that time, you were telling me earlier that, like, so at that time, that was more when your sister wasn't playing as much with you?
No. It's once I got the 64, I don't even think because when I got the 64, I only had one controller. So we definitely, we might have played a couple times together, especially like when you first get the game console. You know, everybody's excited about it. They want to see it and play it. So I'm pretty sure we played then. But not really. And then, you know, the games I would get weren't really like, I don't think they grabbed your interest. Because, you know, I would get like, I got like WWE No Mercy or WWF No Mercy.
That's what's up. That game is so good.
Yeah, that game is awesome.
So good.
I like that one a lot. And then I got WCW versus NWO. And, Yeah, and what else did I get? I had like, I think like 10 or 14 games for it. I can't really remember I can't really remember any of the other ones. But I don't think they were like really, besides the wrestling ones, those were the only ones, those were the only multiplayer ones. And like the WWF ones aren't really like, especially if one person knows how to play and the other person doesn't know how to play at all, it's not going to be fun for either one of you.
Not fun at all.
Because you're gonna whip the other person's ass so much, and then they're just gonna get frustrated, and it's not gonna be fun for you or them. So it's like, so my sister wouldn't like really want to like play that with me.
That's
and
really
so
funny.
so yeah, we didn't play that much either on the 64. And interesting enough, for the 64, I didn't really get that many like first party Nintendo games. I don't think really like any. I never played Mario 64, only at the kiosk stations.
Holy shit.
And now, yeah, like I got to go back and look at what I have for my 64, but yeah. So I missed out a lot on the 64 too.
Yeah, that was when things were getting really different, just because, like, for example, like, obviously games were different between Genesis and Super Nintendo, right? Like this, like Aladdin or The Lion King, like, they're just different games. You know what I mean? They're just like not the same game. Like, they're just different. That's when it started getting really big divide, when like PlayStation and 64 were happening, because like, dude, if you play like the SmackDown games on PlayStation compared to, WrestleMania 2000 or whatever on N64, they were completely fucking different. Like, they were so different. But again, like, that was the charm of it. So like, some people preferred, these games on PlayStation because of this reason, but then they preferred these games on 64 because of this reason. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And that was the thing, is like, that's why like some of the third party games on 64 were awesome, but then some weren't. Like, some were just like not as good, which, I mean, you could say for a number of reasons, but then there was games like to think like Turok was not a first party Nintendo game, but it shit was never on PlayStation. It was only on 64. Those WWF games that were just so different, but in my opinion, I like those games better. I have more fond memories of those games rather than the PlayStation, wrestling games and stuff like that. Like, it's just weird that Nintendo at the time was almost like, yeah, we have third-party support. These games are kind of different from what PlayStation's doing. But in my opinion, like, I was talking about this before, is like, if they did an N64 classic, there weren't that many amazing first-party games on 64. Not saying there weren't any, but like, if you look at SNES Classic, like, there's a stack of first-party Nintendo games that are like next-level good. Really
easy to pick out like which ones to get.
Exactly.
Like, from a giant list, you can easily just blindly pick at some, and you're gonna get like a good 30.
Exactly. And then if it was like, let's do an N64 classic, you're like, ugh, because like a lot of the games that people have those fond memories over, of course, you have Mario 64, you have Zelda, I get it, but people will say GoldenEye or Perfect Dark or No Mercy, and those are all third-party games with licenses, and it's just like, I don't know if you're gonna get able to get WWF No Mercy. I don't think it's gonna happen anymore. So that's the thing, is that like, I was thinking, like, if you did an N64 classic, I'd love to see how the fuck you figure that out, because Acclaim isn't even around anymore. Like, the company that made Turok, the company that, like, Perfect Dark owned by Rare and Microsoft now. Like, go figure that shit out. Like,
oh well. Technically, I think Acclaim is back, because they published Bubsy, the new Bubsy game. Yeah,
that one game that everybody wanted, right? Fucking stupid. God. It sucks, because now, like, bringing back quote-unquote retro is a thing when no one gives a shit about those games anymore. Like, they just don't. Like the Bubsy remake, Toe Jam and Earl's getting a new one, and I was like, again, I think it is that people in their head, they just remember these names, so they think, oh yeah, those are good games.
Well, no. I kind of think the business people think it's like movies, where like, oh, these are cult classic kind of games, or like kind of like the movies, right? And I think I think what they don't realize is, like, you're not going to make the same money, because it's much easier to buy a DVD or a Blu-ray now or whatever, and watch that for 2 hours and, like go along your way. Whereas, I mean, it's gonna be pretty tough to play PUBG for 5 or 6 hours, however long it is,
Right.
Like
and
that's a bigger ask
about it again. Like that's the thing is like, I guess you can do that with certain games. Like when they did that shit with, when they did Mighty Number 9, how everybody was like, oh man, this is going to scratch that Mega Man itch I've been wanting. And then the game ended up doing not so well, like, or people just didn't like it. I think that's the only problem with a lot of these games when they're trying to do the retro thing, because it's cool to be retro and it's cool to have, all this nostalgia and all that stuff. But then you're choosing characters that straight people don't give a shit about. Like, do you think anyone in the year 2018 is like, you know what I want? A new Toe Jam and Earl. No one has fucking said that. Like, Busby, like, dude, there's just so many weird things that they're trying to pull back from. There was a Double Dragon game. Like, apparently, like, these newer Double Dragon games all suck. Go figure. Like, they're just not, they're trying to live off of these names and not treating them with respect. Like, some games are coming back and they're trying to do new things with them, and good for you, right? But, like, you can't just say, we're bringing a new Buzz. That's like a joke. Like, people will buy that game as a joke and then play it and just be like, ugh, this isn't good. But then you get games like Sonic Mania, where they're like, no, we're actually bringing back old school Sonic made by people who love old school Sonic, and it's really fucking good. Like, you just have to find the right people to do it, and you also have to find people, the right characters that people give a shit to have come back. Like, yeah,
and or if you're gonna bring those characters back like Bubsy, you have to since those games are like notoriously bad, you can't take anything from them really. Like, you have to retool the whole concept of the character in the sense of, like, okay, what kind of, if he's going to be a 2D side scrolling game, like, okay, we can't have the same moves, or, you have to retool everything, especially with all these other 2D games, that are coming out now. You have to, like, I feel like you have to learn from those, and just, it doesn't even matter if it's not even the same Bubsy anymore. As long as it's a good game, it's going to be, it's going to be successful. But since they kind of like try to make it like the same game as before, which it's like, oh, that's not the coolness. That's not the nostalgia you want to pull from,
Right, not that one. I mean, there's games out there that I think the other problem is too, though, is that the technology has progressed so much to where controls don't have to suck anymore. Like, graphics don't have to look like that. Like, sound doesn't have to look like that. But then some people go for that look, that like quote unquote retro look, and some people pull it off really well and some people don't. Like, one game that comes to mind is Shovel Knight, which is fan-fucking-tastic. Shovel Knight literally takes the best shit from, like, multiple games and puts it in a game with an awesome story, and you can tell that those people love those games and love that genre and love that, 8-bit and 16-bit style graphics. But they still did new things with it that made it better. Like, the controls were fucking awesome. They were perfect. They weren't floaty. They weren't, you know what I mean? So they took all the good shit they loved from the retro games, modernized it to make it work well with the new consoles, had awesome music, even though it was still 8-bit music, how crisp it was, like the backgrounds were really nice rendered. Like, you can do retro shit, but also just make sure you put the newer things that make it enhanced because you can. Like, some of those games were limited based off of the fact that they were on NES, you know what I mean? Like, character models were reskinned in different colors because they couldn't have different models. Like, they only had enough room on the cartridge for these certain number of models, so that's why some characters were green and some characters were red and blue, just because they just put a different color on them and all of a sudden they were more difficult. But yeah, that's like, it's cool, like some games do that, but then, like, again, you do a Kickstarter or whatever for Busby, and you're like, no one, who the fuck asked for this, man? Or if you do it, it would be better if you, like, in my opinion, if you made it like almost like in a joking way, like making fun of yourself, like realizing like, this isn't that great, but we're gonna have some fun with it. Like, I think that would be even better to, like, get people's interest, because if you straight put out another Busby game, nobody will care.
Yeah, that's why, like, you have to, like, if you're gonna bring back those characters for any kind of nostalgia, then just bring back their look. Don't bring back the gameplay. Like, for the love of God, don't bring that back. Just bring back the look, and and say, like, hey, this is Bubsy, same look, well, a whole different style or whole different gameplay, you know?
Right.
And because you can't, I mean, it's like you can't take, I don't know, like you can't take something that's fundamentally bad and try to make it work now when it was fundamentally bad like 20 years ago. You have to like completely retool it and make it completely different.
Especially
like,
when games have progressed so much in 20 years. Like you cannot have those super awful floaty controls. You can't, I mean, like they have to be tight. When you hit the button, shit's got to respond. Like you have to be able to make it tight now because like we've gotten used to a certain caliber of games now.
Yeah. Or like it just has to, like, it has to make sense within everything. If you're going to have floaty controls like that, then let that be your decision rather than like we have floaty controls because that's as best we can do, you know, like let it be your decision where, okay, we're going to have floaty controls because this is the style of gameplay we want. And this is how we want the character control because it's going to make sense in with regards to the environment. You know, maybe you want floaty controls so that they can flow across, you know, like big jumps or something like that. Right. And you made a good point about Shovel Knight where they took like the best things about a lot of different games and rolled it onto one and made this amazing game. But it takes like a lot of effort because those guys were like going broke with when they were making the game. They were like maxing out their credit cards just to try to make this game go through with it. Whereas with Bubsy, I mean, these guys are just trying to get a quick buck.
Yeah, basically. They're basically taking like the first one, putting an HD skin on it and probably putting it out, and everybody's gonna like. Again, people are gonna buy it on a goof. They're gonna buy it and be like, "Dude, you won't fucking believe what I just bought." And like nobody's gonna be serious about it. Like, dude, man, you're gonna take off work today to play that new Buzz, but no one is gonna do that. Yeah, but again, they're just trying to cash in on that shit, which is it's sad, but also too, again, people don't make video games for fun. People are trying to make money, so I get it. But
yeah,
damn.
I get it too. People got to get paid, you know. Like I think you said on when you were on Sean's podcast, We the Gamercast, you said like, you know, I like buying new games because I want the money to go to the developer, and which you know you know, they have to make money. You know, they have to feed their families. They have to do this. They have to do this and that, which I totally understand. But there has to be some level of like passion and love, or at least not. Even if you don't even have that, you have to have some. At least, you know, like level of proficiency at your job so that the balance of passion and love with how good you are at your job, you know, like the good part way outweighs the passion and love that you lack, that you're still able to make a good, competent game, you know?
Right. Which sucks because
I think that's where Bubsy or any other new fails.
Yeah, they don't give a shit about it. They're just trying to make a game. They're just trying to make a game to make a quick buck. Like that's where certain developers, it sucks because some developers get pigeonholed into fuck you, you don't care about games, your customers, you care about money, a la EA, which sucks because I'm sure there's people at EA that are fucking genuine and love their job, and then they just get lumped in because of them being EA. Like, but the thing is, like, when the whole, for the most part, I don't get all pissy about games. Like, dude, they're fucking video games. Like, am I going to get so upset that I'm going to let a video game affect my day or my week? Or fuck off. When all that Battlefront stuff happens, like, I'm like, yeah, they did loot boxes because they're trying to make money. Like, of course they did. Why would they not do that? I get it. But then, like, certain companies get a pass. Like, when people are all like, Bethesda games are all glitchy. Oh, that's Bethesda. No, fuck that. Like, Fallout's glitchy. This shit sucks. Like, no, that's not, oh, its frame rates on DLC's bad. That's just Bethesda. No. How is that, like, fair to say that? But then you want to shit on EA because they're trying to make money, which, by the way, every other company's doing. Like, it just sucks because, like, some companies get that pass and some don't.
Yeah, I think it's just the reputation they build. You know, like, Bethesda, you can tell with their games that like, I don't want to say they don't have good programmers or anything like that, but maybe their programmers just aren't as good as other people's, or maybe they're just making such complex games that their the programming falls a little bit. But their love and passion for that game like over exceeds like that. They're lacking in programming skills. their love and passion over exceeds that when you play that game, you're like, damn, they really put a lot of time into this. They like, sure, there's some like weird, funky stuff going on, but damn, this is still a fun game to play. You know, like kind of like PUBG. It's like a really fun game to play, but it's like glitchy as hell because it has like a lot of love and passion put into it. I think it's just the balance. Like either you're really good. It's like, you know, like you could hate your job, but you could be really good at it. That you just like, I mean, you could just like just do it without really breaking a sweat and still do like an amazing job. Or you could like, you know, be not so good at it, but you could love your job. And like that pushes you like past, that pushes you forward so that you can do like an adequate, good job, you know?
Right. And like I said, like Bethesda's at that mark where people love their games so much and they love their characters and all this stuff. But then I wouldn't just say Bethesda, but just, well, in a way, mostly Fallout and Skyrim. Like other games are fine. Wolfenstein's fine. Evil Within's fine. Like I don't have problems with those. But like certain companies too, though, like it sucks because like I said, EA could put out a fucking awesome game. And then people will be like, fuck you, you're EA. And that sucks. You know what I mean? That really sucks. But again, like other games like The Witcher, holy shit, you're a small company who put out this incredible game, who put out all this free DLC, and people love you to death, even though there may be faults with your game or whatever, which Witcher is actually that rare example of like, holy shit, this game's incredible. It's really, really good. And these people care enough to give away free DLC for the game and still work on the game after it's done and put out these 4K patches for Xbox One X and PS4 Pro, which are fucking crazy. Like, you get weird companies like that, but then, yeah, like I said, if it's Activision or EA, like, dude, it sucks, man. Like, it's not a fun time. Like, again, you could have such a good game, but if it has an EA logo on it, people won't even give it a chance, and that's really shitty.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they kind of reap what they sow, right? They kind of did it to themselves over the years. And a lot of it, like, especially with the Star Wars Battlefront thing, I mean, for that one, I don't just blame EA. I blame, like, a lot of people don't want to blame the developers, like DICE or whatever. And, like, I'm not trying to say, like, it's all their fault, but I think it's EA's, it's EA's responsibility to tell them whether there's loot boxes or not. But it's DICE's responsibility to implement that in a way that works. Right. And that goes with the programming. They have to program it in there correctly, but they programmed it like a mess. Yeah. It was like it was awful. It was, and that's why I think it's partly their fault because, I mean, like, you gotta, like, because EA, like, the executives aren't going to program the game right. They're not going to program how the loot boxes work. That's all DICE. Yeah, they should take some of the blame. Side of things. They just want, they're like, hey, how's that money coming along? Yeah, that's why I feel like both should be blamed, not just EA, but DICE too, because the programmers fall short. But it depends on people. Like, some people want to put 100% on EA. I'm more like, let's put, I don't know, like 60, 40, 70, 30 on EA and DICE or something like that.
No, yeah, because you're right, though, because like I said, EA is just the one fronting the money for all this shit to happen. They're fronting the publishing. They're doing the marketing. They're doing all this. But it's up to the developers to do it right. I mean, there's certain companies that are out there. Messaging alone will fuck your company to death, and it sucks, i.e. Microsoft and Don Matrick. That piece of garbage. He literally single-handedly in one E3 in 1 year wrecked the Xbox brand. He seriously did. Xbox 360 was selling fucking crazy amounts. They had all these exclusive contracts with all these people for all this shit. They were doing so well. And then literally they showed the Xbox One. They focused on entertainment. Motherfucker said, if you don't want a console that's online all the time, go buy a 360. And I literally just, my jaw at the floor, I'm like, are you fucking crazy? What is wrong with you? Him, and then like the whole mess around messaging with always online. No, you don't. Yes, you do. No use games. Yes, there are. No, there's not. That whole thing ruined Xbox. And granted, they're better now. And I always was cool. Like, I prefer Xbox over everything else. So, of course, at first I was like, this is cool. But then I saw, like, so many people were like, why are you buying an Xbox One when you can get a PS4? And I'm like, no, I still prefer Xbox overall, Xbox Live, whatever. But, like, that dude literally, that messaging around that whole year when Xbox One got announced literally screwed Microsoft out of the lead. Like, if they didn't have that mixed messaging, they would have been fine. And I'm not saying, they would have beat PS4, but they wouldn't have been so far behind, I would think, as PS4 is. But, like, messaging alone, like, how DICE handled that, like when the whole thing, I think there was the comment on Reddit that's literally the most downvoted comment ever, when that dude was just like, you don't have to do it. And, like, they were just like, dude, fuck you, and just downvoted that comment so much. So, I mean, messaging alone will make a game good. I mean, example, Halo 5 has microtransactions. It has them. You can buy those rec packs. You can fucking...
From the very beginning, too.
From the very beginning. You can buy them, right? However, they came out and said, yes, there's these. But they implemented it in a way where it doesn't... some people felt that was pay to win, but it really wasn't, because you got the rec packs, but then you still had to be good at the game to get to the point to use them. So again, Microsoft did a good job with that, but also they straight said, there's no season pass. We're going to give you a ton of DLC for free. And that's it. You know what I mean? Overwatch is probably your greatest example of how to do loot boxes, because it's purely skins. It's nothing else. But you make your skins so fucking awesome that people want to buy loot boxes. Like, that's how you do it.
And what makes Overwatch even better for that is because their characters actually have they have personalities. I mean, like when you put a character, when you give them a new skin, like a new alpha and stuff, like they have they have personality. Like you care what they wear, or like you're kind of invested because they look cool. Because the stuff that Blizzard's putting out, the comics plus the short videos and
which
stuff,
are awesome.
Like it gives their character, it gives their characters personalities, which gets people invested. Which, I mean, Star Wars, their characters, I mean, they sort of have personalities, right? They kind of sort of do, but not totally. And when you and with the Star Wars characters, it's like when you don't let them, like give them different, skins or something like that, since they don't really have a personality. Like, I mean, people are invested in them. That's why that Reddit comment was so downvoted, but they don't have as much personality as the Overwatch characters do. So I think that's kind of like the difference between that and why it makes those loot boxes even better, because you care about getting those skins. Like, you care about making your character look a certain way, or like on Halloween dressing up as like, I don't know, a skeleton or
cool shit. That's always awesome.
Yeah, so that, I think that, that's what makes that Overwatch so good, because they kind of go above and beyond than just, giving them like whatever, than just being like playing characters, like.
No, I get you. Like, it makes complete sense. I love this show now because now it goes from like growing up to like new shit. Oh well, that's fine. So then back on track. So then you were 64 kid, did a lot of third party stuff. So you really rode the Nintendo train and you kept going. So you did GameCube, and then like the only what I was mentioning earlier about like third party support. So like Super Nintendo had ridiculous third party support. 64. It started waning down because a lot of people were jumping to PlayStation. But then like GameCube, when Capcom was all
over the Resident Evil games.
Yeah, that was insane, because that's where GameCube started getting awesome again, where you were like, holy shit, there's games I definitely need a GameCube for. Like, do you remember the games you had on that particular?
Yeah. Again, like I kind of missed out a lot again on the Nintendo first party. Like, when I had the GameCube, I was like barely like, I was in middle school, so I was going through that, awkward teenage phase, like kind of like preteen to teenager. Yep. And so I was really trying to find like, I was trying to be like a cool kid or whatever. And for some reason, this is going to sound really stupid, but for some reason I thought all the cool kids were into sports and whatever. So I thought they all played like NBA Live and Madden. Right. So I always got those games. And I regret it so much. They're always the same, and they're always the same game. So you don't really have to buy like the next one. So I literally have like NBA Live 2003, 4, 5, and same thing with Madden. So I got a lot of those games. I did get Mario Kart Double Dash, which is a fantastic game. Yep. I really loved it. What else did I get? Mortal Kombat, Deadly Alliance.
Did you ever Smash Brothers or anything?
No, like I completely.
Oh my God.
I missed out on all that. Like I kept trying to And then like also I was like I hadn't got it through my head that like you were saying, like how you were saying earlier about the Super Nintendo games that licensed games were bad. So I got like the Fantastic Four, the movie, the game.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I kept getting like bad games. And it wasn't like that people were giving, like, you know, my parents were buying them for me, but I was asking for those games. I want those games. And I would get like some, and then like the worst part too was I went from WWF No Mercy to like the WrestleMania games
Which
on GameCube.
Not that
good. They were like cool because, you know, like they put the Hell in the Cell and a bunch of other stuff like that, which is cool, but they just weren't as fun as the No Mercy game or to WrestleMania 2000, and the character creation wasn't as good as the other one. So it was like, so I had to go from like really good game, like really good wrestling game to like, like not so good.
Yeah.
So
that was crazy because that was even worse when Xbox happened because there was literally like 3 different teams doing wrestling games. And it's like, you could definitely tell that when PS2, Xbox, GameCube era hit, they gave no shits about anything except for SmackDown on PlayStation because those games were awesome. But like, yeah, dude, GameCube, like wrestling games, oh my God, I forgot all about those because they had like the WrestleMania. It was just the WrestleMania series, right? Because it was WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Xbox had, I think, Raw.
3, whatever.
And I think, I swear to God, I think there was only like one wrestling game for Xbox ever made. Like, they didn't give a shit about that. And then like every year there was a SmackDown game for PlayStation, which was awesome. Like, those were where they definitely started putting all their money into.
Yeah. So like really like when I went through the GameCube, I had like not a really good time with it. Like maybe the only game, I have to look through the games I have, but really the only game I had fun with was Mario Kart Double Dash. And then I just stopped playing games for like the longest time until you know until the Wii was coming out and I got into the hype of that because everybody was hyped about that. So
yeah.
That even though I was like way on the outside, I was like not even a casual gamer. It still got me excited. And then I got really lucky because I couldn't find a Wii anywhere.
No,
and
I got
no one could. And I got really lucky because my sister, at the time, she was going to school in UC Irvine, and she had a friend that worked at Target, and I guess randomly some person just returned the Wii to Target. And like the guy even opened it up to look at like if it worked and if there was anything, and it was like basically brand new. Like they didn't even like touch anything. And he called my sister and because my sister knew I wanted one, and so he called my sister and told her like, hey, we just got a Wii. Do you want it? And she's like, yeah. So she went over, got it, and then she delivered it to me later on. And so I got really lucky that I got a Wii.
That's awesome. Like, and especially, like, did you get a discount on it then because it was considered a quote unquote open item?
I have no idea. I never really asked my sister about it. I hope so. Cause
the real thing is you got one, so who gives a fuck, right? Like, you were just like happy to get one and you didn't care if it was opened and torn apart packaging. You're like, this is the Wii,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, cause same thing happened to me where I had that period of where I just stopped playing games. And then I only got back into gaming because like I didn't have a PS2. That was like during my high school. Cause I was born a couple years before you. So like I was in high school when it was like Xbox, PS2, GameCube was happening. And I just didn't fucking play games for a while until I started working at a game store. And that's when I got back into video games completely hardcore. But yeah, like, and what sucked is like, that's where shit started going back downhill for third party support. Cause now the only thing that was on Wii was just fucking like shovelware, like Gabella's Deer Hunter 20, whatever. Like, it was just all this weird shit. I mean, they still, again, that was where I thought like the only really good games that were on Wii were more your first party shit. Like, if you messed with any third party shit on Wii, it was not really that great. Yeah,
and I didn't really have that many games either. I really only up until like a few years ago where I got like Metroid Other M just a couple years ago and like another game. I only really had 3 games, and that was Mario Kart Wii, which was good, but not as good as Double Dash. So even then, even then when I got that game, I went downhill, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got Marvel Marvel Alliance.
Ultimate Alliance, yeah.
Yeah.
That game is awesome.
I didn't really like it.
I only liked it because it was like Diablo with Marvel characters, and I was like, oh, that's cool, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You know, now you wish there was other good Marvel games.
I liked unlocking the characters and playing as different characters, but I didn't really like the I don't know, I didn't really like the top down view of it, that, like you said, that style of game.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like it too much. Like at first when I got it, I was like, you know, with the motion controls, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then like a couple of days later, I was like, okay, this is
fucking old.
fun.
I'm tired. I loved how like everybody was balls deep in the motion shit for a while, and then like literally after like a month with the Wii, you started looking at the back of the games, going, can I use a regular fucking controller for this game? Because I don't want to do any motion shit. Like no one wanted to do the motion shit after a while. They were just like, all right, can I plug in a Pro controller and just set this damn thing down and just do that? So that's like everybody wanted to do after a while, which that was the other thing too that made it harder for third party people to give a shit about the Wii, besides it being like underpowered. But like the controls, like how do you go from a normal button configuration to motion and make it work? Like, you know, games had to be made with motion in mind. And then there were certain games where they straight just didn't have barely any motion. They were just like, no, you just plug in a Pro controller and play this shit like normal. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I just, and that's where it sucked too, because you started getting dumbed down versions of third party games. But then some games came out, like when they did the Resident Evil 4 remake for Wii, like that shit was cool because they made it work.
Yeah, and especially since it came out on the GameCube, so they didn't really have to make that many changes to it. Besides adding the motion controls, I mean, if it ran on the GameCube, it was going to run on the Wii, you know? So
exactly.
That game was like a really smooth transition.
But like how they implemented the motion controls into it was really, it was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why like certain games they could do that with. But then also it brought on the genre of like light gun games again, which were gone forever. So like,
like the House of the Dead games?
House of the Dead games, like all those games were gone because just they were getting more expensive. No one gave a shit. And then literally when the Wii is like, you put this thing in a gun and it's a light gun game, then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh yeah, those games. And then there was a flood of those. So it's just funny how that ends up working too.
Yeah.
So then, you eventually were you still into games like at the time, or did you get like just on the hype train of the Wii and then eventually you were just like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I was pretty much out of it once, maybe not even like a few months into it, I was already out of it because none of the games I got weren't that fun to me, especially when I had like, you know, older memories that were better, and the newer memories didn't compare. So I fell out of it again for years and years and years until not until the Wii U, but it was not until the Wii U was like already like was already 2 years or out already.
Right.
I think that at the time I got into the Wii U, Super Smash Brothers was probably already out for a couple of months already.
For the Wii U.
Because I got it in December. Yeah.
Which, by the way, that Smash Brothers is fantastic. Like that's a that's a really good Smash Brothers game. Because the one on Wii, no, it wasn't that great. Like it just felt different. Like Smash Brothers on GameCube was fantastic. Brawl was okay, but then when the Wii U version came out, it was just like, fuck yes, this is like why people own this console. Like it's so good. Like I had a Wii U and I completely only used it for first party Nintendo shit because like the third party support on that was even worse. Like no one gave a shit to put things on the Wii U. So it was like your first party Nintendo machine basically. And you know, like, and it sucked too because there was never like a super, like there was New Super Mario Brothers, there was 3D Mario World, but then it was like, I don't know, man, like there wasn't really, the first party stuff on that didn't feel as tight knit. Mario Kart 8 is fantastic. Smash Brothers is fantastic. Those are probably the two best first party games on that console, and they didn't come out till near the end of the console life anyway, so it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I didn't get, yes, but I really love the Wii U though. Like that's the most fun I had with any console ever. Which isn't I guess saying much if you hear this whole thing about my experience with it.
Like what like your
not that
was.
Yeah. So what my experience with gaming, like I missed out on so many games in the past and now, but with the Wii U, I loved it. Like, I mean, everybody hates on it now, but I love it. I mean, that's like my favorite console, like ever. It's my favorite console. I love it. Like I had the most fun playing through 3D World with my ex-girlfriend, or my girlfriend at the time. It was really fun playing through that with her, and like Yoshi's Woolly World and what are the other games that just a ton of fun games. I just had a blast with Bayonetta. It was a blast to play. I just had like a lot of fun with that console, and a lot of it has to do with it was like the first console I ever bought with my own money. Before, my parents bought it or my sister bought the Wii, but this one I bought with my own money that I earned, and then I just had the most amazing time with it.
And see, the thing is like, it's hard to, I mean, the thing is everybody's going to have their own opinion of stuff, right? But the thing is, that's what makes this show and talking about that nostalgia stuff, like that's what makes your favorite console is the Wii U, which some people would look at you and go, are you fucking crazy? What is wrong with you? But you had, yes. But again, all these memories that link to it that make it your favorite console. It was the first one you paid with your own money. You had a lot of fun memories playing with other people. You had really good I mean, that's what makes it your favorite console. Like, I mean, everybody can be objective about it, but I mean, some people will say the Genesis was their favorite console because that was the best Christmas present they ever got in their life. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter of like these games or stuff like that were on there. It's just like those memories that are in your head that you think about that one thing and you're just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Even though other people might look at it and go, how can you say that? But I mean, if, like you said, a lot of people might go, are you crazy? The Wii U, that's your favorite console. But if you had those types of memories, that's fucking awesome and good for you, man. If that's your favorite console, who gives a shit? Like, so again, my son is probably going to say that Minecraft's the greatest game ever made. Now I will look at him and go, the fuck out of here, kid. You're out of your mind. No, it's not. But again, he has those memories of when he was a kid, when he was literally starting to play games, playing Minecraft on a tablet, and then getting to learn all those different recipes to do all these different things. Like, that's those types of memories that are going to make you think that's the greatest shit ever. And that's why I like this show, because each person has that own thing that's different. I mean, each person has that own thing that makes them think like, this is why I love this so much. So, dude, if you console the Wii U, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it got me back into gaming, and now I'm like buying every console and buying every game and going again, crazy.
That's awesome too. I mean, again, if it got you back into gaming hardcore, good for you. I mean, like, there's games out there that are like that for me. Like, I think of games like, I think of Halo 2. And I love Halo 2 because I spent an entire year straight playing online with my friends. Every fucking night after work, I'd come home and play games. And again, you can argue Halo 3 is better, now Halo 5 is better. But dude, I will still love the shit out of Halo 2 for what it did to me at that time. Because like, that was next level shit, dude. Online, voice chat, teaming up with my buddies every single night. It had clans. Like, it was just all this shit that just makes me like love that game more than some of the other games in the franchise, or some other games in general. Some people will have favorite games that you look at and go, I don't know how you like that, but if you got those, again, if you got those memories, man, that's all that matters. So today you sound like an equal opportunity, player now. So now you're definitely off the Nintendo only train. So now what are your gaming habits like today? I'm still like a Nintendo kid, like through and through, because I play mostly the Switch. I mean, I love the Xbox, especially the controller. I love that controller. It feels so good Best
in my
controller
hand.
Ever made. Sorry guys, Xbox One controller. Hate on me all you want. The analog sticks aren't together. I don't give a fuck. That controller is amazing. I remember putting that in my hand for the first time, and literally, because the 360 controller was so good, and then I put the Xbox One controller in my hand for the first time, and I literally was just like, this is perfection in my hand. This is the best controller I've ever used. It's so fucking good.
It feels amazing. Like, just holding it feels really amazing. So I want to, like, right now I'm in school, so I don't really have a lot of time to play games, but when I do, like, I mainly play on the Switch. Like, I just got Mario Odyssey when it came out in November or October.
That'll keep
so
you
I played that. I played that a lot. And then through the holiday, I tried to play like Wolfenstein and Nier Automata to try to like diversify, to try to play a little bit of my Xbox and a little bit of my PlayStation and really get the most out of them. And so I try to diversify as much as I can, but I still prefer to play on a Nintendo console. But I can't lie like that. The Xbox controller feels amazing. It's a great controller. Like I want to play more games because that controller feels really good. And the other part about it too is I want to play more more co-op games because I just like playing with other people. It's just really fun. And one thing I don't hear a lot of people talk about, which with the Xbox is that you probably heard of this because you prefer Xbox, but you know how you can go into the settings.
The Xbox Assist.
Not is it assist or like you can basically map like one controller to two controllers?
Yeah.
For one game?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I really want to do that with somebody, or play because I'm not I'm not really good at shooters or anything like that, or like any game like a horror game, like if I were to play Evil Within 2 with somebody, like you could play that game co-op, and like I could be moving and the other person could be shooting or something like that, and I think it would be totally fun. And I think it'd still be playable too. Like it wouldn't I don't think you lose anything from it.
I'm literally staring at my Xbox right now. It's called Copilot. That's what it's called. I just went to the settings and found it. I was like, I'm going to be real pissed if I can't remember the name of this shit. Yeah. But no, like those are things that are awesome. Like those are, I mean, the co-op stuff, like I get that too. Cause recently I've been trying to play more games with my wife, besides Diablo, cause she just wants to play way too much fucking Diablo. And I'm like, I can't play more of this shit. I'm going to go nuts. We got to play something different. So, the co-op stuff now, I get where you're coming from there. But yeah, the Copilot stuff, especially now if you have kids, that shit's way easier because you can just be like, hey kid, fuck around. And then if you can't do it, I can do it for you. Like, that's awesome. I wish I had that 6 years ago when my kids were first playing games because that would have been probably a little bit easier to help them with. But no, man, I mean, it's cool though that now, obviously, like I said, if you have your Switch and you love it, great. Mario Odyssey, really good game. Like really, really, really good game. But yeah, man, you diversifying your games and, again, it's cool because now you have that knowledge and stuff of games that are out there, going from Wolfenstein, Nier Automata, Mario, like you have that, you can hear what's good out there, even if it's not a genre you're normally used to playing, and you can at least experience all those. Wolfenstein 2, by the way, fucking awesome. Like,
yeah. Really I only play like 3 hours of it or 4 hours of it, probably like 3, but it was really fun. Like, it was super traumatic in the beginning, though.
Oh yeah, like it's next level fucking crazy. But like that's the other thing. That's the thing for me. Is like some games you play, like the gameplay of Wolfenstein is shooting. Other games can shoot. You can shoot in other games, whatever. The difference is now, which is awesome because technology allows it, is story and voice acting and just motion capture of the like it's so good. Like the characters in that game are so good, and you give a shit about them, and they're awesome. But yeah, don't expect anything to be like normal in a Wolfenstein game because that shit's nuts. Like it's nuts. There's scenes in that game that literally happen, and I'm literally looking at my screen just like, holy shit! Like what is going on right now? But yeah, those are more. There's like one moment in particular. People who've played the game know there's something that happens in the game, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what am I gonna do now? And then what they do around it, you're like, what in the world? It's really good. There's one part in the game that everybody gets to, and if you played it again, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's really good. So if people wanted to check you out, if you do you do any online gaming, or if people want to like add you on any of that, I won't make you say your Switch friend code because nobody remembers that shit off the top of their head. Fucking Nintendo. I will have links in the show notes, so if you do want to friend them on Switch. But what's your gamer tag and everything so people can check you out?
Okay, so on Xbox, I think it's Nintendo Kid 232025.
See, you just stuck with it. You're just
yeah.
But Microsoft loved that. Like, whatever. He bought an Xbox.
Yeah. And for PlayStation, it might be the same thing. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think it's the same thing. So try that.
There you go.
Try that.
And I'll have links in the show notes if you want to check them out. And help him out. Maybe there'll be some games in the future that, online co-op. There you go. Look at that shit for him. So, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being on and sharing all your stories, man.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you for having me. It was awesome talking MMA with you, too.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. For people who don't know, we talked about 45 minutes at the very beginning for MMA, but we'll save that for the MMA podcast I'll do later on. So, again, thanks, man.
All right, no problem, dude.
All right. And again, thank you, Alejandro, for being on the show. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. We started talking just, first time I met him. I talked to him on Skype. I was like, hey, what's going on? And then we literally started talking about UFC 220, which was happening the next day. So we got into a giant conversation that literally lasted about almost an hour of just UFC. So I was like, well, if I ever want to do another podcast, I guess I got that. But no, I'm good. I'll probably just stick with this for now. Again, thank you, Alejandro. If you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter. Also, you can go at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. I have a Facebook group, which is Growing Up Gaming Facebook group. Just search that up. You'll find it right away. And then, of course, I have my website, which is gugpodcast.com, which I promise I will be better at updating because I have to be. And again, I have to really thank Sean Capri, at Sean Capri on Twitter, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. He says it, I'll say it too. He's the one who linked me up with him, and I actually have a bunch of guests lined up because of that gentleman. So thank you very much, Sean. And again, hopefully you subscribe on iTunes and Google Play and all of the above. And again, I just thank you guys each and every week for listening, and I'll catch you guys next week.